air felt too heavy to breathe. I remember pacing back and forth in the parking lot outside my office, my hands shoved deep in my pockets as if I could hide from the truth I'd just been handed. My chest was tight, my vision blurry, and the ground beneath me seemed to tilt with every step. A couple of co-workers had stepped outside, worried looks on their faces. One of them asked if I was okay, but all I could do was shake my head and mutter something about needing air. My boss even came out, told me to go home, said I didn't look well. He had no idea. Nobody did. Because how could I explain? How do you tell someone that a single sentence from the woman you've loved since you were 14 years old just blew apart everything you thought you knew about your life? How do you explain that your wife of 5 years, your partner for nearly half your life, let slip a truth so devastating that even now, my hands still tremble when I think of it? It happened the night before. We were sitting on the couch, just talking. Nothing dramatic, nothing heated. We were sipping drinks, laughing a little, and out of nowhere she mentioned something about that pregnancy scare back in 2017. At first I laughed because it didn't make sense. We hadn't had any scares since 2012, when we were barely adults ourselves. 2017. What are you talking about? I asked, smiling like she was joking. But her face shifted. The smile faltered, her eyes darted away, and something in my gut went cold. I pressed again, this time harder. No, seriously. What do you mean 2017? That never happened. What the hell are you talking about? She tried to brush it off, waved her hand like she was mixing up dates, like maybe she was drunk and confused. But I wasn't letting it go. I grabbed her hand and told her to stop lying, to just tell me what she meant. That's when her entire body went rigid, and tears filled her eyes so quickly it was like a dam breaking. And then I saw it, the look of someone who's just lost everything. The way her face collapsed, the way her body shook, the sound that came from her throat. It wasn't just guilt, it was grief. Please, she whispered. Please don't make me say it. But I needed to know. I couldn't breathe without knowing. So I pushed. And then she told me. Back in 2017, when she went on that girls' trip with 2 of her closest friends, she met some guy. He wasn't anyone special, not someone she stayed in contact with, just a random man she met at a bar. He flirted, pushed, told her that nobody had to know, that it would just be a fling, that she was far away from home, and it would be nothing. And she gave in. Twice that first night, a few more times over the rest of the trip. The words hit me like punches to the chest. I couldn't move. I couldn't even look at her. She kept talking, sobbing, trying to explain through broken sentences. She said her friends found out and told her not to worry, that what happened on vacation would stay there. She said she cried for hours the last night of the trip. Called her mom when she got back, even stayed at her mom's house because she couldn't face me right away. But she didn't confess. She said she wanted to, but she couldn't bear the thought of losing me. Instead, she threw herself into being a better wife, more attentive, more loving, more passionate. Hoping I'd never find out. But the truth has a way of clawing its way out, doesn't it? Even years later. I just sat there, numb, while she begged me to say something. My mind replayed every year, every memory, every kiss, every moment of joy we'd shared since then. Suddenly, all of it felt poisoned. That's why I was in the parking lot the next day, pacing like a madman, unable to function. The world hadn't changed. The sky was still blue, cars still honked in the street. But my life, the life I thought I knew, was gone. I loved her. God, I still loved her. But now, every time I looked at her, every time I heard her voice, I felt this surge of rage inside me. I wanted to scream at her until my throat tore. I wanted to hit something, break something, make her feel the pain that was eating me alive. And yet, under all of that, there was still love. A twisted, desperate love that refused to die even as my trust bled out onto the floor. When you've been with someone since you were a teenager, their presence becomes the background of your life. It's like air. You don't even think about it. You just breathe. I met Emily when we were 14. We were awkward kids, still trying to figure out who we were. And somehow we figured it out together. We went to the same school, shared the same group of friends. And slowly, over the years, we became more than just kids hanging out. By the time we were 17, everyone already knew we were inseparable. She was my first everything. First kiss, first real relationship, first person I ever told my deepest secrets to. We stayed together through the chaos of high school, through the uncertainty of college. While friends bounced from one partner to the next, Emily and I were steady. People used to say we were old souls, meant for each other. And in some way, I believed them. At 23, we got married. I remember the day vividly. The way she walked down the aisle, her smile trembling with tears, the way her voice cracked when she said her vows. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. Our families beamed at us like we were the very definition of young love finally reaching its promise. Even now, remembering that moment feels like watching a home video of someone else's life. Someone who had no idea what was coming. For years after, our life wasn't perfect. No marriage is. But it was ours. We worked hard, scraped together savings, bought a small house. We fought about bills, laughed about stupid TV shows, stayed up too late planning our future. Sometimes she'd look at me across the room with this expression that made me feel like I was enough. Like I was the center of her world. That's what makes all of this so unbearable. It wasn't just the betrayal in 2017. It was the fact that during all those years, I thought I knew the person sleeping next to me. I thought I understood every layer of who she was. And yet, somewhere in there, she was carrying this secret. A secret so big it could demolish everything we had built. After she confessed, my mind started racing back through time, picking apart every detail. That girls' trip she took in 2017, I remember how casual she was about it. Just a weekend with friends, she'd said. I didn't think twice. Why would I? I trusted her. I trusted her with my life. She had told me where they were staying, sent a few pictures of the ocean, laughed about drinking too many cocktails. I never suspected a thing. But now, when I replay those memories, I see them differently. The phone calls that seemed rushed, the texts that came hours apart, the way she seemed unusually quiet the day she came back. At the time, I assumed she was just tired. I remember picking her up from her mom's house, wrapping my arms around her, telling her how much I missed her. She held me tighter than usual, but I thought it was sweet. Now I realize it was guilt. And when I think about all the years since, I start to wonder if every act of kindness, every moment of passion, every surprise dinner she cooked was really just penance. Was it love? Or was it guilt trying to cover its tracks? The truth is, she didn't just cheat on me one night in 2017. She stole years from me. She let me live in a reality that wasn't real. Every anniversary, every Christmas, every lazy Sunday morning in bed. It was all built on a foundation of lies. The worst part? If she hadn't slipped up, I might never have known. She could have carried that secret to her grave, and I would have kept believing in us, in what we had. That thought makes my stomach twist. And yet, part of me can't stop remembering who she was before that. The girl I fell in love with. The woman who stood by me when money was tight. When I lost my first job. When I doubted myself. The woman who held my face in her hands and told me I was enough. That history is real too, isn't it? It's tangled up with the betrayal now. But it existed. That's what makes this hellish. If she were a stranger who hurt me, I could walk away. But she's not. She's my wife. She's the girl I grew up with. She's the person who knew me better than anyone else. And now she's the person who hurt me worse than anyone else ever could. I keep asking myself, was it one mistake, a terrible lapse in judgment? Or was it proof that she's someone I never really knew? That's the question that keeps me awake at night, staring at the ceiling while she cries beside me, begging for forgiveness. I don't have the answer yet. But I know one thing. The man I was before that night. The man who trusted blindly, who believed without question. He's gone. Her confession came out in pieces, like jagged shards of glass cutting through the air. She sat on the edge of our bed that night, her hands twisted together so tightly her knuckles were white. Tears ran down her face, dripping onto the blanket. But she didn't bother to wipe them away. "I don't even know how to tell you this," she said, her voice trembling. "It was years ago. It meant nothing. But I can't keep lying anymore." I just stood there, arms crossed, trying to hold myself together. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear her words. She told me about that trip in 2017, the so-called girls' weekend she had taken with her two closest friends. They had gone to a beach town, rented a cheap hotel, spent their days lounging in the sun and their nights drinking in crowded bars. She said it was supposed to be harmless fun, just a break from routine. But then she met him, some guy leaning against the bar, smiling at her, making jokes. She swore she wasn't even interested at first, but he was persistent, charming in that shallow, practiced way some men have. He bought her drinks, told her she was beautiful, told her nobody had to know. She said she laughed him off, but he kept pushing. He leaned in close, whispered things in her ear, things she refused to repeat to me. At first she said no, but then her voice cracked. She admitted that part of her liked the attention. Part of her felt flattered, maybe even reckless. She said she didn't know what came over her, that it felt like stepping outside of herself. And that night, when her friends went back to the hotel, she stayed behind. Her words stabbed me in the gut. It happened twice that night, then a few more times during the trip. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. She tried to soften it, tried to make it sound like it was meaningless, that she was drunk, that she barely remembered. But I remembered every detail she spoke, whether she wanted me to or not. She said her friends eventually found out. They saw her sneaking around, noticed when she didn't come back to the hotel one night. Instead of dragging her back or telling her to stop, they just shook their heads and laughed. One of them even told her, "What happens here stays here." That phrase burned into my brain. A slogan for betrayal. A pact of silence that lasted 2 years. She told me the last night of the trip she broke down completely. She cried so hard she couldn't breathe. Her friends tried to calm her down, told her to forget it, told her it would never matter if she kept it secret. And when she got back to town, she didn't come straight to me. She went to her mother's house. She said she couldn't bear to look me in the eyes, not with what she had done. She stayed there for 2 days. I thought nothing of it back then, just figured she wanted to catch up with her mom. But now I knew the truth. She was hiding from me, from what she had become. She even admitted she had bought a pregnancy test. She was terrified. She said the idea of carrying another man's child nearly destroyed her. The test was negative, but the fear lingered. She almost confessed then. Almost. But fear won. "I couldn't lose you," she said, her voice barely audible. "I thought if I just buried it, if I just became better, maybe it would fade away." And in some twisted way, that's what she did. From that day forward, she tried harder. She planned more dates, cooked more dinners, became more affectionate, more sexual. She tried to rewrite the story with her actions, hoping I'd never discover the missing chapter. I stood there, listening, feeling my insides tear apart. Every word she spoke was another nail in the coffin of the man I thought I was. She admitted she didn't love that guy, didn't even remember his last name, didn't care about him. It wasn't about him at all. It was about her, her weakness, her selfishness, her choice. And no matter how many tears she shed, no matter how many times she swore it was meaningless, it wasn't meaningless to me. It was everything. It was my life. When she finally stopped talking, the room went silent. I couldn't find words. My throat felt like it was closing. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I couldn't stand her touch. "You should have told me then," I said finally, my voice hoarse. "You should have given me the choice." She collapsed into sobs again, begging me to forgive her, promising she would do anything to make it right. But forgiveness isn't something you can trade for. It's not a currency you can buy back with tears. And in that moment, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. I wasn't just angry at what she had done. I was angry at the years of silence that followed, the way she let me love her, trust her, share my life with her, all while knowing she had already destroyed the foundation beneath us. Rage is a strange thing. It doesn't always explode like a firework. Sometimes it simmers, bubbling just beneath the skin, poisoning every thought, every breath. That's what it felt like in the days after her confession. I couldn't look at her without my chest tightening, without my fists clenching. Every time she walked into a room, every time her voice reached my ears, my body reacted like I was under attack. And yet, there was no enemy to strike at, just the woman I had loved for half my life. One night, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My face was red, my eyes wild, my jaw so tight it hurt. I barely recognized myself. I looked like a man possessed, someone who had been hollowed out and filled with fury. I gripped the sink, leaning forward, whispering through gritted teeth, "Why? Why did you do this to me?" There was no answer. She tried, of course. She cried constantly, her eyes swollen and raw. She followed me around the house like a ghost, desperate for me to look at her, to say something, anything. She swore she was sorry, swore she would spend the rest of her life proving it. But all I could hear were the echoes of her words. It happened twice that night, a few more times after. Sometimes the images came unbidden. I would be sitting at work, staring at my computer, and suddenly I'd see her in that hotel room with him, see her hands on another man, hear the sounds she made. My stomach would twist, bile would rise in my throat, and I'd have to step outside, pacing like a prisoner in his own life. At night, it was worse. I'd lie beside her in bed, both of us silent, the space between us heavy with unspoken words. I used to find comfort in the warmth of her body near mine. Now it felt suffocating. Sometimes I'd roll away, clinging to the edge of the mattress like it was a lifeboat, praying for sleep that never came. What haunted me most wasn't just the act itself. It was the time. 2 years of silence. 2 years of her waking up beside me, smiling, kissing me goodbye before work, telling me she loved me, while carrying this secret. I started questioning everything. Every night she said she was out with friends, every time she came home later than expected, every story she ever told me. Was it all a lie? Was I the fool who never saw what was right in front of him? And yet, as much as I hated her in those moments, I hated myself too. Because I still loved her. That's the cruelest part. Love doesn't disappear just because you want it to. It lingers, stubborn and defiant, even when it's poisoned. One evening, I finally snapped. She was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at me with tear-streaked cheeks, whispering, "Please, just talk to me." I slammed my hand against the table so hard the plates rattled. "Talk? You want me to talk? What do you want me to say? That it's fine? That I forgive you? That I'll just forget you slept with some stranger while your friends covered for you? Is that what you want?" She flinched, her whole body recoiling like I'd struck her. "No," she whispered. I just want you to know I love you. That I never stopped." Her words made me laugh, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that brings relief. It was sharp, bitter, almost cruel. "Love me? You don't love me. People don't destroy the ones they love. People don't keep secrets like that for years. Don't you dare tell me this is love." The silence that followed was unbearable. She broke first, sobbing into her hands. I just stood there, shaking, my chest heaving with rage I didn't know how to release. Later that night, I sat in the living room with the lights off, staring into the dark. I thought about leaving, about packing a bag and walking out the door, never looking back. But then I thought about our history, 14 years together. The laughter, the struggles, the dreams we once shared. Was I really ready to throw it all away? The war inside me was constant. One moment I wanted to hold her, to remember the girl I fell in love with. The next, I wanted to scream in her face until she crumbled. I realized then that betrayal doesn't just break trust. It fractures your very sense of self. You become two people. The one who wants to salvage what's left, and the one who wants to burn it all to the ground. And every day, every hour, I felt like I was losing ground to both. After the confession, I began to see the past with new eyes. It was like someone had taken all my memories, shuffled them like a deck of cards, and handed them back with a warning. Look closer. Nothing is what it seemed. For 2 years after that trip, she had played the part of the perfect wife. At the time, I thought it was just growth, that we were maturing into our marriage. I told myself we were finally finding our rhythm after years of scraping by. But now I realize it wasn't growth. It was guilt. I remember the little things first, how she suddenly insisted on planning weekly date nights, even when money was tight. How she surprised me with my favorite meals after long shifts. How she reached for me in bed more often, her touch lingering as if she was desperate to prove something. Back then, I thought I was lucky. I thought I had a wife who adored me, who wanted me. But now, with the truth out in the open, all I can see is her overcompensating. Every kiss, every gift, every tender glance, it wasn't just love. It was penance. And it twists inside me, because what should have been cherished memories now feel tainted. That anniversary dinner she spent hours preparing. I can still see her lighting candles, smiling at me across the table. I thought it was pure devotion. Now I wonder if she was silently begging me not to see through her. Even the intimacy we shared feels hollow in retrospect. I can't stop asking myself if she was picturing that man when she closed her eyes. If the way she touched me was her way of erasing him. Every time my mind wanders there, I feel sick, like I'm trapped in someone else's nightmare. She keeps telling me it was just once, just that one trip. She swears on everything she holds sacred that it never happened again. But the problem is, how can I believe her? She already proved she could look me in the eyes and lie for 2 years straight. If she managed to bury that truth so deep, what else has she hidden? Trust is fragile. You spend years building it, brick by brick, and it takes only seconds to smash it to rubble. That's where I am now, standing in the ruins, staring at the wreckage, wondering if it's even possible to rebuild. The worst part is how convincing she was. I used to brag about her to friends, saying how lucky I was, how faithful and devoted she seemed. Some of them even joked about how I set the bar too high. If only they knew. If only I had known. And yet, she won't let go. Every morning, I wake up to her eyes swollen from crying. She follows me around the house, desperate to talk, desperate to explain. She writes me notes, leaves them on the counter, pours her heart out in pages of apologies. She says she'll never forgive herself, that she's willing to do whatever it takes to earn back my trust. But that's the problem. Trust isn't something you can just earn back like points on a scoreboard. It's either there or it isn't. And for me, it's gone. I find myself withdrawing, keeping my thoughts locked away. When she asks what I'm thinking, I tell her nothing. But the truth is, I'm thinking everything. I'm replaying the lies, reliving the nights she spent pretending. Sometimes I catch myself staring at her, wondering how I could have been so blind. And then comes the guilt. Not hers, mine. Because part of me still longs for her. Part of me still sees the girl I fell in love with, the partner who stood by me through hardship. Part of me wants to believe her tears, to believe that this was truly the only time. But another part of me screams that I'm a fool if I do. It's exhausting, living in this constant tug of war. Some days I almost convince myself that we can make it through. Other days, I fantasize about walking out the door and never looking back. The people around us have no idea. To them, we're still that perfect couple. Neighbors smile when we wave. Family members comment on how strong we are together. If only they knew the cracks beneath the surface, the truth rotting behind the smiles. I don't know what's worse, the betrayal itself, or the years she let me love her without ever giving me the choice to decide if I could accept it. She robbed me of that choice. And no matter what happens next, I'll never get those years back. That's the cruelest part of infidelity. It doesn't just steal trust, it steals time. Time you can never reclaim. The days blurred into weeks, and still the storm raged inside me. I kept waiting for clarity, for some voice of reason to tell me what to do. But the truth is, when someone shatters your world like this, there is no guidebook. There is only pain, and the slow, agonizing process of deciding what kind of man you want to be on the other side of it. Some nights, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the walls in silence. The house felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by memories. I could almost see younger versions of us in every corner, laughing in the kitchen while cooking pasta, collapsing onto the couch after long days, wrapped in each other's arms. dreaming out loud about the children we'd one day have. Those memories weren't lies, they happened. But now they were covered in shadows I couldn't erase. She kept trying, every single day. She begged me to go to counseling. She begged me not to give up. She cried until her voice was hoarse, swore she would spend her life making it up to me. I could see the desperation in her eyes, and part of me pitied her. Part of me even admired her courage to face what she had done. But pity isn't love, and courage doesn't undo betrayal. The hardest part was admitting the truth to myself. I didn't trust her anymore. And without trust, love is like a house without a foundation. It looks whole, but it crumbles at the first shake. One evening, I finally said the words out loud. She was sitting across from me at the table, staring down at her hands. I told her I couldn't do it. I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering if her words were lies, if her tears were real. I told her I loved her, but love wasn't enough anymore. Her face broke, and she reached for me, but I pulled back. You didn't just cheat on me in 2017, I said quietly. You cheated me out of 2 years of my life. You let me live in a lie, and that's something I can never forgive. Silence followed, heavier than any scream. She nodded slowly, tears spilling over. If this is what you need, if leaving me is the only way you can heal, then I won't stop you. And for the first time since her confession, I saw honesty in her eyes. Not excuses, not bargaining, just truth. That night, I packed a bag. Not everything. Just enough to start over. I stood in the doorway, looking back at the woman I had loved since I was a boy. She looked so small, so broken. A part of me wanted to run back to her, to hold her, to tell her we'd find a way. But I knew if I did, I'd be betraying myself. So I left. Walking away from that house was the hardest thing I've ever done. It felt like peeling away my own skin, like tearing out a piece of my soul. But it was also the first step toward reclaiming myself. In the weeks that followed, the pain didn't vanish. It still woke me in the night, still gripped me without warning. But slowly, something else began to grow in its place. Clarity, a sense that I could survive this, that betrayal didn't define me. One morning, I stood outside watching the sun rise. The sky was painted in streaks of gold and crimson, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of peace. The world hadn't ended. My life wasn't over. I was still here. And maybe, just maybe, there was hope for something better down the road. Betrayal is a wound that changes you. It scars you, makes you wary. But it also teaches you who you are when everything falls apart. I learned that I could walk away, that I could choose myself even when it hurt. And if you're listening to this, if you've been through something similar, I want you to know you're not alone. Heartbreak may feel like the end, but it can also be the beginning of something new. Because in the end, life isn't about the people who break us. It's about finding the strength to heal, to rise, and to believe that trust, real trust, is still out there waiting for us. So, if this story touched you, if you've ever felt the sting of betrayal or the courage of walking away, I'd be grateful if you supported this journey. A simple like, a subscription. It helps these stories reach others who need to hear them, because sometimes the hardest truths carry the most important lessons.